Been neutralized.
Hi guys, this week I'm going to talk to you about keycaps. Keycaps are very important to some people and I'm going to cover as many aspects as I can. When talking about keycaps, there's three major factors to consider: material, printing, and mount. Material is quite simply what it's made out of. There are three main materials for this: ABS, PBT, and POM. ABS is the most common. It tends to give a deeper typing sound than PBT and it's usually cheaper, but it has two main disadvantages. It yellows over time when exposed to the sun for a long period, and they wear away faster than other materials, which leads to smooth, shiny surfaces, which some people, but not everyone, dislikes. PBT doesn't whiten with age at all, and takes much more use to shine up than ABS, but it sounds more high-pitched, and it's often not as easy to find. POM is a rather rare material, often used for black keycaps. It doesn't shine up very easily either, but it's very low friction material, so it feels remarkably slippery to the touch. They tend to give a very deep typing sound. A persistent myth is that you can determine which material it is using a sync test. If it syncs, it's PBT, if it floats, it's ABS. But that's very misleading and I wouldn't recommend it. A much better way is to use an acetone test. Pick a keycap and rub some acetone on the inside of it using a cotton bud or something like that. And if the surface on the inside partially dissolves, it's ABS. Like that. Note that on many PBT keyboards, the spacebar is still made out of ABS. This is because PBT shrinks a lot more when cooling down, so it's hard to make spacebars out of them without fucking them up. Only a few manufacturers like IBM and NMB were daring enough to make PBT spacebars. The printing refers to the method they use to put the letters on the keycaps. This can be done in a huge variety of ways. The cheapest and by far the most prevalent on rubber dome keyboards is pad printing, which is basically just a sticker on top of the keycap. You can recognize these by the rim around the letters. Although some older keyboards use more high quality rimless pad printing. Pad printing, especially the old rimless type, looks fairly decent, but it's liable to wear off more easily than other printing methods. Pad printing is done most often on ABS keycaps. Laser engraving is also found on some modern keyboards. In it, a laser burns grooves into the keycap material. This also darkens the material, but not as much as some other methods, so it's fairly low contrast. Because the grooves are cut straight into the material, these legends tend to last a while, but I've seen some keycaps abused so badly that they wore right down to the depth of the printing. Because it uses a very thin laser beam, this allows for the thinnest legends on keycaps and the most detailed patterns on, for example, Windows keys. Laser engraving is performed on both ABS and PBT keycaps. Dye sublimation means that the keycap is heated and then a dye material is sunk into it, becoming part of the keycap. Because the surface is not disturbed, you can't feel dye sublettering, and it's extremely hard to wear off. Disadvantages are that the lettering, especially in really old keycaps, can smudge or leak, such as on the right, or bleach, such as on the left. The colors are not usually as deep, and the edges tend to be a little fuzzier than on other printing methods. However, you can get multiple colors on the same keycap. Dye sublimation is done on PBT keycaps because ABS tends to burn at the temperatures used. Double shot printing means that the printing is a separate piece of plastic around which the keycap is molded. You can easily recognize them because you can see it on the inside of the keycap. This is by far the most resilient and high contrast method of them all. It's impossible to wear off and it allows for the sharpest, most colorful and vibrant printing, but it's also very expensive to do. Double shot keycaps are almost always ABS because other plastics shrink too much, but some manufacturers like Taihao do offer PBT double shot caps. Infilling is done pretty much exclusively on black POM caps. A laser is used to engrave the caps, which are then filled with a white filler material. You can feel these legends very clearly, and because they're raised out of the surface, they tend to get very dirty very quickly. They tend to fade a little bit with use, although often they remain very clearly legible. And finally, there's the mount. This simply means what kind of switches you can put them on. There's a huge amount of different mounts, including Cherry, Alps, Mitsumi, Futaba, Keytronic, and IBM, etc., etc. Cherry MX mount is by far the most common nowadays, and is still being made by a wide variety of sources, so they're easy to get. Most custom keycaps are also based on Cherry MX mount. Alps mount used to be very common in the 80s and 90s, and Taihao still make them new, including double shots. They're fairly easy to find on second-hand keyboards too, but very few custom keycaps use MX mount. IBM keycaps are still being made by Unicomp, and they can do custom legends too, but the quality isn't as good as on the old IBM keycaps. The thickness of keycaps varies too, from thin caps like Cherry PBTs to the massive double shots used by Honeywell. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it, and join me next time when we look at the different connectors, protocols, and interfaces like USB, PS2, and ATXT, and how to get them to work with modern PCs.
Has been neutralized.